Thank you everyone for being here. Welcome panelists, students, and faculty to the Careers in Tourism and Hospitality panel. My name is Tisa, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. This afternoon, we have representatives from local Halifax organizations who are here to provide insight and expertise about one of the most exciting and fastest growing fields in the industry. Before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping items we'd like to review. Just want to remind everyone to please turn off or mute your cell phones for the entirety of our session today. In case of emergency, please evacuate through the nearest fire exits. The one you came in, there's also two at the top. I'm going to kindly ask that you all do remain seated for the entirety of our session today. And please postpone all your questions until the end. We will open the floor up for a question and answer period. And finally, as most of you know, this is a Learning Passport event. So to keep things efficient, I just please ask that you do fill out your passports as we go through the session today, and we will be stamping them at the very end. Great, okay, we're gonna get started. Welcome panelists. Our first question today is, please introduce yourself and tell us the company you work for.
All right, my name is Megan Patriquin, and I'm a sales manager at the Westin Nova Scotian Hotel in downtown Halifax. I am responsible for booking 50 guest rooms or more per night and meeting space. To tell you a little bit about the Westin Hotel, it was originally opened in 1930 as a CN railway property, so it essentially connected Halifax to the rest of Canada. It began to fly under the Westin flag in 1996. We are a 4-diamond hotel, as well as we have 310 guest rooms, over 10 suites, and over 23,000 square feet of meeting space. So my job is to find the right fit of business to fill that meeting space with the ratio of guest rooms.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Burgess. I'm the sales manager for Ambassatours Grey Line and Murphy's at Cable Wharf. When I first started, it was just with Ambassatours Grey Line, the bus company, motor coaches, and double deckers. Last August, we merged with Murphy's at Cable Wharf on the Halifax waterfront. We now look after a 400 capacity restaurant, 7 sailing vessels, and of course the harbor hoppers. Part of my job is to deal with charter bookings, so not so much the day-to-day sales of sightseeing tickets and cruise lines, but groups such as yourselves. I think last week you guys were out on the Harbor Queen, if I'm not mistaken. So our team at Ambassatours and Murphy's deal with charter bookings.
Hello everyone, my name is Autumn Fiske, and I run my own business as a travel agent under Travel Only. Travel Only is a host agency. It's fully Canadian, 100% Canadian owned and operated out of Ontario, but we have over 500 agents in Canada. So basically what I do is I work like a regular travel agent, but I don't work in an office. I work for myself. So my specialty is cruising and group travel, but it's not limited to that. I can also help with all-inclusives and pretty much anything you can imagine in the travel industry. I help people book trips.
Hello everyone, my name is Megan Delaney, and I work at the Cambridge Suites Hotel in downtown Halifax as the general manager. I've been there for about 3 years, and since I've been there, the hotel was purchased by a group called Temple Hotels based out of Winnipeg, and it is managed by Atlific Hotels, and that is often the case with hotels, that they're owned and managed by different companies. And it is one of the few independent hotels in Halifax, which means that we do not fly a flag of a brand. So there are 3 Cambridges. There is one located in Halifax, one in Sydney, Nova Scotia, and then one in Toronto, Ontario as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Melanie Lowe. I'm a front office supervisor at Delta Barrington downtown. So unlike Megan here, we do fly a branded flag, which is Delta Hotels. We've also recently been acquired or purchased by Marriott International, so we're even part of a bigger brand now, still remaining the brand Delta Hotels. So it's complicated when you get into hotels. It's a big circle of different management companies and owners. Delta Hotels was actually founded in 1962 in BC, and they were Canada's leading hotel management company and one of Canada's top 50 employers for the last 15 years. So I guess that's what attracted Marriott to purchase the brand.
Great, thank you. Now, can you tell us, how did you get into the position that you are in currently?
I'll start, I guess. So I'll bring you back a long time ago when I attended the Mount and got a degree in tourism and hospitality management and a certificate in business. I completed 3 co-op placements along the way, summer placements, with those being one at the Algonquin, which was owned and run by Fairmont Hotels at the time. And I started off as a hostess. Loved it. And then my next co-op placement, I went out west to the Jasper Park Lodge and was a server at that position. And then my final and third placement was at the Banff Springs Hotel as a banquet server / captain. So after I completed my degree, Fairmont actually hired me onto their management trainee program at their property in Calgary at the Fairmont Palliser. And I was very lucky because their program that they designed for me had 3 different stops along the way. So I got to experience 3 different positions in 3 different departments to see what the best fit was for myself and what was the best fit at the property. So those placements were in food and beverage. So I was the outlets manager for about 9 months. Then moved into accounting to see the side of that, the back side of things, and how everything operated on that end. And my final position there was the front desk. And sales was not on the itinerary for that program. So I had asked to cross-train in sales while I was at the Palliser, and only for a week or 2. And the director of sales said yes, so I trained as a sales coordinator for a couple weeks, and that turned into a year position covering a maternity leave. That ultimately turned into me being promoted to sales manager, a junior sales manager position, looking after the filler markets, which was sports and entertainment. Calgary is more so corporate driven. So that was my job to fill the weekend business. So in my first year of that junior sales manager position, I not only met my sales quota, but I exceeded them by over 25%. So that was awesome for me and for the company, and I think it opened the property's eyes to these markets that maybe were on the back burner all this time. And with achieving that, the great thing about being in sales, you do have an incentive program. And I'm very competitive, so that works great for me. And with that incentive program, because I had overachieved my sales quota, I was awarded one of the top sales managers company-wide for 2011, and which was a huge achievement, especially first year being in sales. And was awarded a trip to Monaco for a week. So it was really neat. So after that, I definitely knew I found my goal and the career that I was meant to be in. So I spent a couple more years out in Calgary and then moved home and started to work at the Westin. And that's where I am now.
Great, thanks, Megan. Kevin?
All right. I actually took a little bit of a different approach. When I started the Mount in 2007, and I got my history major. At first, I was going to be a teacher. Probably 3 years into the program, I realized there weren't too many jobs around here, and it might not just been for me. So I got into the tourism program, and from there. I met my boss through actually one of the programs here at the Mount with Paulette Cormier's class in restaurant management. I was the contact person for the Restaurant for Skull organization, and I actually met my boss there, my current boss there that night, and we kind of just kept in touch. And then after I graduated in 2013 with my tourism and hospitality management diploma, I actually moved to Peru for the winter without a job. I just went down there and tried to gain some real life experience and work on my Spanish. to hopefully, get my second language. When I got back from Peru in the spring, I emailed Sean, who is the director of sales at Ambassatours, and I just asked him, hey, do you want to go grab a coffee and just see how things were going? And I mean, I was unemployed at the time, and it just so happened that he was looking for someone to join as a sales associate. So it worked out. We had a couple meetings. I met with his team, and I decided to take the opportunity as a sales associate at Ambassatours. Later that summer, like I said, we merged with Murphy's. And then at that point over the winter, we decided that we needed to restructure the sales team. So Sean took a promotion into the director of sales, and I was lucky enough to be promoted to sales manager. So overall, I didn't have a lot of experience in the tourism field. Through university, I was in the construction industry just part-time, kept my high school job, and I just showed a lot of dedication, and I would always try and just never say no, be real flexible, long hours. You got to do an awful lot of after-hour events and networking. So I just showed that I was committed to the team, and I wanted to learn, and as Megan mentioned, the sales, there is incentives, and I'm pretty competitive as well. So I mean, you do get all that, and then with the events and stuff like that, you get to do a lot of stuff and meet a lot of people. So I'm here for now, and we're growing as a company. We're now the largest sightseeing company in Canada. So things are looking up, and I guess that's how I got started, and it looks where I'm gonna keep on going.
Thanks, Kevin. Autumn?
So it's true, Kevin does have a lot of dedication. I had quite a few classes with him in one of my last years here at the Mount. So my story is that I am also a graduate from the Mount. I did my bachelor's in tourism. So I originally thought that I wanted to do hotels, but I did a one-year exchange in my fourth year. And I got a special visa so I could go over there for over a year and work a little bit in the hotel. So I worked a little bit in southern Spain at a hotel for a few months doing everything imaginable. I loved it. But I also did a couple of semesters in school there. And then once I started traveling around Europe, I was like, okay, so I love hotels, but I like travel even more. And travel is part of the hotel industry too, so why not do it all? So over the year of living in Spain, I traveled around Europe. I did a lot of solo travel, which is quite a unique experience. I've had some good and bad experiences. So yeah, I came back to Canada, and I knew that I wanted to be a travel agent, but I didn't want to work in an office agency. I knew I wanted to work for myself. The problem was I didn't quite have the resources, because anybody in here that's an entrepreneur knows that it's not that easy to start up your own business, so I had to put my dream on hold for a while. So what happened was when I got back, I got a really good paying job here in Halifax. It was a great experience. I was managing a cottage rental company, and I had a great go of it, but then after I finally had enough funds, I decided to start my own travel agency business. And I have a friend that works for Travel Only. She's worked for the company for over 10 years, and she told me how great it was and all the benefits of it. So I said, okay, well, I've got enough money in the banks just in case this doesn't go well. And I just started my business from there, and it's all about networking. When you're a self-based travel agent, clients don't come to you until they find out about you. So it's all about networking your business, and here I am now in Halifax, but I don't just help people in Halifax. I can help anybody all over Canada, and I even help a few friends in Europe plan their vacations as well. So that's it for me for now, and I'll continue working to book trips for people.
Thank you. Megan?
Well, a common theme, we all went here. But it seems as though I am the old one of the group, and graduated about 10 years ago. I didn't take typically the traditional route. I did get a degree in business, and I thought I was going to be an accountant, which is kind of strange because I don't like being locked in a cubicle. So I soon realized that I thrived off people, and I think that's really the main component that you need to be successful in this industry, is to really enjoy people, and to enjoy putting yourselves in situations that you wouldn't regularly be in. So I started here at the Mount, and throughout my university career, because I switched programs when I was here as well, I was here for a very long time. I was a server, and it just happened that the restaurant I worked in was managed by Patriquin Hospitality, which is a company that is based here out of Halifax. And they saw potential in me, which I'm very thankful for, and they put me through a management training program. And what that means is that I worked in every position in a hotel, and not just to learn it, but to really do it. So I have worked in laundry, maintenance. I'm not handy. I've worked in housekeeping, front desk. And once I landed in the front desk, that's where I knew I really wanted to continue in the operational side. So I worked at the Radisson Suite Hotel downtown for a long time and progressed. When I left there, I was operations manager. And from there, the company I worked for at the time, Patriquin, they decided that moving me throughout the province would be a good thing. So I did spend quite a bit of time in rural Nova Scotia managing smaller properties until the opportunity in Halifax came up with Lithic, and I found myself back in Halifax. So I guess to make a long story short is, in order to move up, you need to be flexible, not just with your time, but I think being mobile is very important as well. So being willing to leave an urban center and do some time, not prison, but do some time outside of Halifax or whatever city you would like to be in, really gives you some essential experience to be able to get a job where you'd end up where you'd like to be in the long run.
Thank you.
So as everyone is aware, we've all graduated from the Mount. I graduated from the Bachelor of Tourism and Hospitality Management program as well, about 2 years ago. So I actually started with Delta Hotels my first co-op term. When I moved here, I had to bus pass it every day to get out here, and I told myself, I want to work there someday. Just really curious. I ended up doing a project for Randall Fisher where I had to interview someone in the industry. So I stuck my foot in the door and thought I'd get in with the HR department at Delta, and it worked. So I got hired on my first co-op there as a guest service agent, and from there I was kind of hooked. My plan was never hotels. It's still, who knows? I really like the hotel industry, but we'll see kind of where life brings us. My second co-op, I was so addicted to Delta, I really wasn't willing to leave, so I was looking for more opportunities to get it to count as a co-op, and I ended up being the tour coordinator and training new employees, new co-op students, which was a really good experience. Tour coordinating is really fun. If you ever have the opportunity and hear that word, grasp onto it. You meet a lot of neat people. And my third year, my third co-op, again, I was just loving the Delta life, drinking the blue Kool-Aid, as we call it. And a relief supervisor position opened up, and I was like, ooh, I'm really young. I don't have much experience, but I went for it. And it's really important that you do go for it, because every shot you don't take is a definite miss, and every no is still a learning opportunity. Fortunately, I had gotten it. From there, I just worked my way through here at the Mount and continued working at Delta full-time. Just liked it that much. And sure enough, I'm a full-time supervisor now and the lead trainer for the front office and bell department at Delta Barrington. So my best piece of advice is always look for opportunities. If you get something or you find something where you're really happy, let it play out for a bit. But as Megan said, it's very important that you are mobile and you're willing to get experience in other areas. I've been in the front office for 6 years now, and I've gotten experience through being a supervisor and having to throw myself into situations. But it's definitely helpful. The more you learn and the more comfortable you are with every role in a hotel, the better you'll do, for sure.
Thanks, Melanie. For our next question, Megan, we'll start with you. What keeps you going to work every day?
I'd say meeting new people on a daily basis. You never know what's around the corner. Good surprises and whatnot. And in my role as a sales manager, I create dreams, or I paint the picture on how a conference will work within the hotel and make the puzzle pieces fit. also coming back to the competitiveness. It's nothing better than going home at 5 o'clock and saying, I won that piece of business from the Cambridge Suites. It's just a great feeling, and the payback's awesome.
Great. Kevin?
Yeah, I think the unexpected. So, I mean, with the transportation industry, things can happen, both good and bad. Part of my job is we actually have to carry a phone. It rotates every 4 or 5 weeks, but we have to answer that phone 24 hours of the day. So if something happens with, say, our bus or a boat, we have to be the problem solver and fix it. So, I mean, whether or not it's 1 a.m. and we have a bus broken down on the Confederation Bridge, and we have to call 17 taxis out of Summerside to come and get them. Or if it's like, for example, 2 weeks ago, I picked Justin Trudeau up at the airport. So it's meeting new people, both maybe some more famous than others, or more well-known. But it's also the people I work with. So on our sales team, there's 4 of us. 3 of us are actually graduates of the Mount. So we actually employ quite a few Mount graduates as well. But they're great to work for. My boss and my owners are great to work for. One story I'll never forget is when I first started, I went to an event with the owner of our company, Dennis Campbell, and he was actually the MC at the event at the Marriott Harborfront. And I think I was 2 weeks into my job, and he was sitting with the mayor, and he actually got up and he introduced me to everyone at the event. So it made it real easy on me because everyone was coming up and introducing themselves to me instead of vice versa. So that's something I'll never forget. So I mean, the owners and the people you work with and work for really play a big part in it as well, because you don't want to go to work and hate everyone you talk to. So I think that's what keeps me going to work.
Thank you. Autumn?
So first of all, I go to work every day. Well, my work consists of either my home office, but usually I go to a lot of local cafes, so I get to try lots of different lattes and bagels. So I have to go to the gym like 5 days a week just to burn that off. Anyway, so the main thing is that I love what I do. So travel, I don't think anyone in here doesn't like to travel. So it's just amazing that I can live my dream and work and travel every day and get to know products, and I love sharing that passion that I have with my clients. So say if I love to send my clients to Europe. That's my favorite place to send them. I'll send them wherever they want to go. But when I lived in Spain, I really had a passion for not just seeing a place, but getting involved with the culture and the people and the languages. It's just, well, it's amazing. So also I learn something new every day. I'm the type of person that I can't be stuck in the same thing, doing the same thing. I have to be versatile and always learning because I get bored quickly. And as a travel agent, you are never bored. There are so many different places. There are so many different suppliers and opportunities for people to travel around the world. And also, the harder I work, the more travel benefits I get. That is a plus. That's my favorite thing of my job. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Punta Cana, courtesy of Air Canada Vacations, and I didn't have to pay for the trip. All I had to pay was the taxes and a $50 booking fee, so that's a pretty good deal. And also with Contiki Tours. Contiki is a tour provider ages 18 to 35, and they specialize in group travel, not just seeing a place, but getting involved with the local people and the culture. And the harder I work with them, the more likely it is that they'll send me on what's called a FAM trip, and FAM trips are what travel suppliers give agents for incentives if they make a lot of sales or if they do well representing the supplier. So Contiki, I plan to go to possibly Iceland or on a European trip in the next year or so. So that's also a huge benefit. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Megan?
Well, the main thing that motivates me to go to work every day is the fact that I like my job, and I think that's really essential. Is that you like what you do. Every job. I think being the general manager of a hotel, I have 80 employees, and it can be very trying sometimes. But definitely the benefits outweigh the downfalls. And I love, in regards to my position, that I get to set the culture at the hotel, and I think that's very important as well. Because when you go to work, not only do you need to like what you're doing, but the people that you work with really influence your day-to-day so much as well. So I love that, being in my role, with working with my department head team, we really get to set the tone, which, I take great pride in regards to being very inclusive and friendly and outgoing. It's so important that you come to work and you get your job done, but it's also important that you have fun while you're at work. And I really think that's the biggest benefit of working in this industry, is that it is what you make it, and that you get to have fun when you go to work. So, if you like people, then this is the perfect industry for you.
Thank you. Melanie?
Yeah, my colleagues, I think, are the biggest thing that brings me to work every day. It's really like a second family. I'm going to point at Moon because I work with Moon. Delta does really well at hiring people who get along with each other. We may not all be the same. We're definitely not all the same kind of people, but we kind of build each other up, and it's a great team environment. The guests that we have kind of end up being like a second family. I have kind of, for one of the next questions, I have a bit of an example of that. And just being proud of the company you work for is really nice. Delta is huge with community involvement. There are programs like their Greens team. They have programs to to increase their guest satisfaction. Like you can get involved with just about anything. Our general manager, Stuart Jolliffe, is a really cool guy, and I think his culture that he's given to Delta Hotels is something that I appreciate. I'm really into music tourism as one thing, something that Halifax kind of suffers with. But just the events that we do. So the other night we did an event called Raise a Little Help, and that's an event that raises money for Habitat for Humanity. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've raised approximately $550,000, maybe a little bit more than that, for Habitat for Humanity. So we're putting families in homes. You're walking around with local celebrities, like Matt Mays knows me by my first name, Tom Swift gives me a hug. It's a great thing. It's just, you go to work and you're like, I'm cool. This is a cool place to be. So yeah, it's and nothing is ever the same. It's a bit of a rush, whether it be kicking water away from an elevator shaft and there's a waterfall coming through a ceiling. Nothing is ever the same. It's fun. If you like danger.
Thank you. For the remainder of the questions, you guys can just feel free to jump in at any point. Give us an example of an event that really made your day. Anyone can answer.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just to speak up to my last question there, or my last response, recently I kind of was working around the front desk, looked up and saw someone I hadn't seen for 5 years. He was a guest that stayed with us so frequently. When I first started working for Delta Hotels, we had a really deep connection, and it'd been years since I'd seen him. Just, you wonder how people are doing, how their family is. And sure enough, there he was. His company had landed another big contract for Halifax, so just having a familiar face around is really nice. Gave me a huge hug. He hadn't seen me since I had been a guest service agent, so he was proud of me, which was a good feeling. And just having those people come back, it makes your day every day, seeing people that remember you for doing something good for them. Yeah.
And I was just going to say, out west, more so, I worked a lot in the entertainment market. So we always had stars or actors coming through the doors all the time. And since that was my market, I got to meet everyone, which was really exciting. Although I'm not up on who's who. And so I remember getting a request for Alice Cooper. And I had no idea who this Alice Cooper was. And the rider of what this person expected in his room was just out of this world. And so I went to my sales team and I said, who does this Alice Cooper think she is? And from that moment on, now I know Alice Cooper is a man and a very good singer. So it just brings you back to reality. And it's really cool, though, to meet everybody like Brad and Angelina and Oprah and the Dalai Lama. It was just really neat.
For our next question, how has your education helped you in your current position? And I'll open this up to anyone on the panel.
So I guess I can speak to that. So a lot of tourism and business students that aren't accounting majors, they don't like accounting. But I can tell you that accounting really gave me the essentials on how to run a business financially, because the worst thing about being an entrepreneur is going in the hole and not having any money, and then you can get out of it, because I've been in those situations, but it's really good to know about your revenues and your expenses and just all of that mumbo jumbo in accounting, 'cause I'm not an accounting expert, but it really gave me the essentials to be able to manage my business financially, as well as yes, I mean, it gave me a lot of skills with my tourism classes, but the main thing that my degree gave me here from the Mount was actually how to run a business and how to make those connections and how to keep your connections into what you're doing and whatnot. So that's what I can say for that.
Yeah, I think I'll echo her accounting. I was one of the ones that didn't like it and probably went to 50% of the classes. But in hindsight, I wish I went to 50% more of the classes. It's in any business accounting, you need to know it in finances. But for me, like I said, it's a little bit different. I didn't take a whole lot of tourism classes here. But what it did do was it allowed me to break out myself with networking and being able to speak in front of people and introduce yourself. You can't wait for someone to come and talk to you. You have to go and approach them. So I feel that most of my tourism classes allowed me to do that, as well as because I didn't have a lot of experience in like the front of the house or the back of the house or in hotels in general. A lot of my classes allowed me the opportunity to see what happens behind the scenes and with the on-site visits and that kind of thing. So for me, it allowed me the opportunity to see what other people do.
I'm hoping to make Bill Murray's hair stand up on the back of his neck right now by referencing facilities management. It was a really fantastic class. I got not stuck, it was a great opportunity. Spending so much extra time in the hotel outside of working, getting to know the facility itself, which when you're working in hotels, I think the biggest thing you got to remember is that building it's kind of a breathing, living organism that if something can go wrong, it will eventually. And it's nice to know just little tricks on how to handle that. Or just something that you can quickly think like, I'm going to do this and stop water from flowing or anything of that sort. Finance is really great. Focus on finance. If you can read any reports that are coming out and kind of understand what those numbers mean, it's nice to have that. And time management is a big one. I find you learn time management skills in university for sure, getting projects completed. I've adapted to just doing things until they're done. That's how I handle things here. That's how I handle life now. Just do it till it's done. Yeah.
Great. What are the most important skills people need in the tourism and hospitality industry?
A personality.
Yeah, people skills for sure.
Yeah, I have that on my list too.
People respond to genuine people, right? So if you don't like working with people, you've chosen the wrong industry, because you work hand in hand every day, not only in a team environment, but like I said, meeting new people on a daily basis. So you gotta love what you do.
And communication is key as well, both in your team and the other departments you work with, but also communication with the clients and everyone. So, I mean, that plays hand in hand with the people skills anyways, because as long as if you can talk to someone, you can talk to anyone. So you need to be very approachable and yeah.
Another thing, adding on to communication, I would say languages are very, very important, especially if you're doing tourism. So it surprises me how many Canadians actually do not speak French. In my personal opinion, I think that most people should be speaking both languages, and I understand. I grew up in a community where French was not spoken, and now I'm working on it. But think the reason why I'm successful with some of my suppliers is, so I have a lot of suppliers from the Caribbean, and sometimes they come down for trade shows. And a lot of them, their first language is Spanish, so Spanish is my second language, as I lived in Spain for over a year. And they really appreciate and remember you when you speak their native language, and it just goes to show your appreciation as well as your knowledge. You can speak about anything in their language as well. It's the same, but languages are definitely key. I highly encourage you. You're never too old to study a language. I'm currently learning Portuguese and Italian right now, so you're never too old, because some people think, oh, I'm 25, I'm too young. No, or too old. No, it's never. You can learn a language at 80. I know someone that's learning Chinese at 85. So, yeah.
Excellent. For the next question, can you describe some of the changes in the industry that you have seen in the last 5 years, and what changes or trends do you see going forward?
If I could speak to that, my bellman would definitely say that people don't tip anymore. I find a lot of people don't carry cash. It's a very plastic industry or world now. Everyone has a credit card or debit card, but no cash. So that's different to see, is tipping. 'Cause European markets don't so much tip. So the more that we have European travelers here, et cetera, it's still kind of a changing thing.
I think as well with technology and us all being so dependent on our devices all of the time, people have an expectation of immediate gratification. So whether or not that is a guest wanting a reply or an employee needing something, everyone thinks that you're their first priority. So when it comes to the changes, I mean, keeping up, I mean, I have 2 cell phones, and you know, me sitting here for an hour and a half, it almost makes me a little bit anxious not checking them, and that's pretty sad. So just, you know, being able to weigh your dependency on technology and really have more face-to-face. I think it's so important nowadays. I think a lot of people are losing their social skills. And this is a rant I'm not going to go into because I'm none of your parents. But I really think, you know, having the skills to be able to talk to one another is something that I'm seeing more and more of with more people coming into the industry. And it's something that when I meet someone who has good social skills and can talk to you, I gravitate towards them, and they're much more likely to get the job. So not right now, but keep talking to your peers and your professors, and learn how to do that in a genuine fashion where you're not looking down at your phones all the time, because employers notice that, and it's something that you know, we just appreciate you giving us your full attention.
I guess I can add on to that as well. Just another thing is for my industry, I'm seeing a lot of people book their own vacations. There's nothing wrong with booking your own vacation online. Sometimes you can find a cheaper rate, a little bit cheaper on Expedia. But you have to consider a lot of things when you book on your own. So during your vacation, if something goes wrong, do you want to be on the phone trying to get from your canceled flight? Do you want to be trying to arrange that? Also, travel insurance. Some people think that agents just push travel insurance on their clients just to make a good commission. That's not true. So we encourage to buy travel insurance, because if you need medical attention in a foreign country, sometimes it can be over $100,000 in medical expenses. If you need like an airlift, I have a friend who went to Mexico who needed a sting surgically removed. If they didn't have insurance, they would have probably not been able to get that medical attention that they needed. So I think it's very important that you book, when you travel, you book with a travel agent so they can make sure that before your vacation everything is in order, and during your vacation if you need any assistance that they'll gladly help you. That's what I do mainly is so I don't, it's not for home-based agents. I would say it's a little bit different, because I'm not saying anything against office-based agencies, but it's more like you book the trip, and if you need any assistance you kind of call the general number. But it's a little bit different, so we make sure that they're well taken care of before their trip and during their trip and even after the trip. It's very important to follow up with your clients and say, welcome home, I hope you enjoyed your trip, like I'm looking forward to book your following trip, because it's a lot more difficult to So if you want to gain more clients, that's fine, but to keep an existing client, that's way more important than looking for new clients, because they can give you referrals.
And just to add to that, in the next 5 years in Halifax, it's a really exciting time because we're getting a new convention center. So that's going to open lots of doors to bring in the big groups into our city, which ultimately affects not only hotels, not only bus tour companies, but everyone in the city, restaurants, etc. So that's very exciting.
And to speak with the next 5 years, I mean, next year in June, cruise ship passengers are going to be up 20% in Halifax. So yeah, that's 3,000 or 4,000 people more in just June. And unfortunately for us, with the American dollar the way it is, we're not so lucky to be able to go stateside, but we're noticing an awful lot more people come to the Maritimes, inbound traveling. We've seen buses this year from North Dakota, Montana. They're on 3 or 4 week trips that they've never dreamed of coming here before. And it's helping out with, like Megan said, with everything from hotels, restaurants. I mean, the cruise ships aren't going to help with the hotels too much, but tens of thousands of people into Halifax is huge.
Exciting few years for Halifax coming up. What advice would you give to someone who is thinking of a career in your industry?
It's not a 9-to-5 job.
That's my first point as well.
Yeah.
Don't expect Monday to Friday, holidays, 9 to 5, none of that. But it's kind of okay because on a Tuesday afternoon, you can go to the DMV. Sometimes you can sleep in on a Wednesday. It's not so bad. You just have to adapt your lifestyle to that. You can have a successful career while having kind of a wonky schedule, and you can eventually work yourself up to having a 9 to 5. It may be, 8:30 to 7 sometimes, but that's what the industry is. You'll learn to love it if you don't already go into it loving it, and just make sure you show your passion. Even if you're working in the tourism and hospitality industry and you have other passions, show those passions too. I've been offered upwards of 20 different jobs just being on the front desk at a hotel by our guests and clients. So if you're passionate about something, somebody might come along and say, I'm looking for someone like you in my business, and open other doors for yourself.
And speaking about opening doors, Halifax is pretty small, so you never want to close any doors either.
Exactly.
It's pretty important piece of advice, I think.
Some great advice. Are there member organizations that you would recommend students or new graduates to get involved with?
I'd say any opportunity you have to volunteer with tie-ins or the NSTA, or just get involved in that Destinations Halifax, any way possible. Even any outside volunteer work, so Feed Nova Scotia, Habitat for Humanity, you'll meet a lot of people in the industry through those as well. We're fairly involved in those industry or in those volunteer organizations.
Yeah, a lot of organizations actually have student deals or memberships, at a very discounted price, if not free. A couple that come to mind would be MPI or Meetings Planners International. I'm sure probably the hotels here are involved in that. Another one which I actually just joined on Sunday is SCUL. So if you want any information about that, I'm sure Candace can help you out. But again, anything, the Chamber of Commerce is another good one. Most of their events are free. They're mostly all after hours, and it's just great networking opportunities.
He totally took all my answers.
So I have a couple of networking organizations that I think are great, especially in the Halifax area, because 40% of the time for my business, I do networking because, like I said, I work for myself, so you have to make a name for yourself. So don't start networking when you graduate, start now. Because when I was a first-year student here, that's when I started. And because I started doing that networking, even with your professors, they know people. And they can, if they trust you, they can refer people to you. Even if you don't have a job lined up yet, when you graduate and you say, hey, I'm doing this, they can refer people to you. So a couple of websites in particular and groups. So there's a group called meetup.com. I use this group every month I go to different events. I go to an event called Jam Networking, and it's a whole bunch of entrepreneurs that just talk together at a local cafe here in Halifax, and there's so many different types of meetups on the website. Another thing that I can say is for the ladies here, if you're planning on staying in the HRM, I would definitely get involved with the Center for Women in Business. I started my membership a couple of months ago, and I have been going to events with the center, and I've grown my business quite a bit, and it's very affordable. For Mount alumni, it's only $100 plus tax for a full year, and you get 20% off of staples included in that. So that's pretty good, especially when you want to print your business cards and flyers like I have here. I have some brochures if anybody wants and after, so.
And just to add to that, I think it's really important that, all of the tourism and tourism affiliated, groups, and they're very important, but anything that you're passionate about, just to put yourself out there, because they're all skills that you're developing towards your eventual career. And, Halifax is a very small city, so, I love animals, so I go and walk dogs at the SPCA. And through that, I've met quite a few people that may not directly impact my day-to-day business, but it's just great to make those connections in a very small city, because a lot of those people have friends and family coming to town, and then they'll recommend that those people come stay at the Cambridge and not the Westin. So putting yourself out there and just getting involved in groups. And I think the biggest thing is don't force yourself. If you really don't want to be involved in a group, then don't force it. Once again, you'll really stand out if you like what you're doing. So get involved in groups and associations that you really enjoy.
Great. That concludes my questions for the panelists. So I will open up the floor to the students. If anyone has any questions that they would like to ask the panel or a specific panelist, feel free to raise your hand. Oh, absolutely. Don't all jump up at once.
We must have did a really
You
good
asked a
job.
question.
Great.
We don't bite.
Yes.
How do you maintain relationships, because you have to travel so much for your jobs, traveling all over Canada or the world? So how do you maintain relationships with your family, friends, partners?
So the question for the panel was, how do they maintain the relationships with their family, friends, coworkers, and people in their lives when they're traveling so much?
I think even when we're in Nova Scotia, we don't have time to maintain relationships with friends and family. That's a bad joke. Obviously, with social media, being able to stay connected with people, or cell phones, you're just going to make the most of the time you have when you are with them. You make a lot of friends in the industry, too, that understand your hectic, busy lifestyle. So having those guys around, also, up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting ready for something or not gone to bed yet, they're good people to have around, too, just for company.
And it's to find that right balance. My first director of sales and marketing always said, if you're not ready to answer the phone, don't answer it. You can choose when to work, most times, unless it's an emergency. As we all said, we probably are all connected to at least 2 cell phones at all time, but it's your choice to make that balance work.
And communicate with each other as well. If you have a good communication line with your family and friends, and even your coworkers who, she said, become your friends, communication is key.
So for myself, on average per year, you're supposed to get touch your clients in a positive way about 4 times. So whether that's a birthday card in the mail, or happy anniversary, or happy holidays, or whatever, just sending them a little note in the mail or something like that, they know that you still care about them, and they'll likely come back to you if you show your interest, even if you can't physically see them and be in touch with them.
Great points. Did you have a question? Yes.
Did you want me to stand up?
Sure. I'll repeat your question for you, but go ahead.
I think this is a question towards Kevin. So the last 2 years I worked with the Africa Museum, and so of course it's a pretty new exam, oh my gosh. Pretty new museum, but the history is quite large, and my question is, what do you think ambassadors could do to kind of help us or get, more people to the museum, considering you guys are just right there?
Yeah.
So the question was directed towards Kevin, but what can Ambassatours do, I guess Ambassatours and Murphy's do to help promote the new Africville Museum in Halifax?
Yeah, not only Africville, but there's a number of other museums and, outlying communities that are always approaching us to try and, bring a busload of people, 56 people to their museum or their facility. Probably the easiest thing is if you have a familiarization day or an afternoon where we can promote it. A lot of the groups that we take from Halifax are going to outside provinces or states, but we're part of an international motor coach group, so we're always working with partners from California and Florida, Georgia, everywhere in North America to bring people and groups into Halifax and Nova Scotia. So just getting us information that we can pass on to our partners and our clients. And like I said, if you can have an open house day, or for example, next spring, East Hants Municipality is hoping to have a fam trip and visiting 3 or 4 different communities and facilities in that area. So it's just all about the information, and yeah, like you said, we're neighbors, so we should be working together a bit more.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Did anyone else have another question? Candace, go ahead.
Of course Candace has a question.
As you can see, we have a very diverse group, and international students and international people are on the increase. And I'm just wondering, what is your organization doing to help promote and manage diversity?
So the question from Candace was, with such an influx of international students, what is your business doing? Sorry, Candace, I forget the last part.
What are they doing to manage and promote diversity?
What are you doing to manage and promote diversity in your organization? Thank you, Candace.
Well, I know Newcastle Hotels and Resorts, that's the management company that runs the Westin Nova Scotian. They work closely with the Netherlands. We actually hire at least 2 students over the summer months, bring them from the Netherlands and work not only at the Westin, but also at Digby Pines and Liscombe Lodge. So that's an ongoing program every year. Yeah.
I think just creating a hotel culture that is very accepting and that is willing to take risks with people from different cultures. A person doesn't need to have perfect English to work on the front desk, especially if you're willing to start in alternate positions. We actually do bring in facilitators from local organizations to teach English at the workplace, during, whether or not it's during their lunchtime or before or after work, to help, with the progression. If an employee tells us that their eventual goal is to work on our front desk or to be in an upper management position, the hotel will do whatever we can to support. It's a give-take scenario, and you need to be flexible, but we'll do whatever we can to support that person to get to their eventual goal.
For us, we're a bit smaller. We don't have a big management company, but we're recently teaming up with iSans to help recent immigrants. But also, if you know a second language, you're almost guaranteed a job with us. If you know German or Mandarin or French or Spanish, we need tour guides. We need everyone. So we don't have a plan, but we need them, everyone.
I feel a bit bad that I've never given too much thought to it, but there's a number of things that we do at our hotel level. I've just always been immersed in so many cultures with Delta. A lot of people work with us from Nepal. There's a number of people from, I'm going to forget the name now. We'll come back to that. But we try to celebrate each other's cultures, and every day, whether it be, there's a big map downstairs that shows where everybody in the hotel is from. So it's kind of nice to say, like, well, who the heck is from there? And then you're like, I got to find out who's from that country. Whether it be even our staff cafeteria, we'll have kind of different ethnic food to celebrate different employees. So.
I guess I can say that it's more external, so it's, for myself, it's not it's not more about sending people from other countries to other countries. I can send someone, for example, I have someone from Venezuela that's going to Cuba. So he needed the proper documentation to go on a trip, to have his visa in order, etc. But externally, what is important, I think, for my clients is not just to sell them a destination, but to sell them an experience with other cultures and other languages, and just to see different parts of the world and how your world works if you're not from here, just to see the destination and how it's run, not just the resort, but actually going maybe to a sugarcane plantation or coffee bean plantation, or seeing how it actually works and whatnot.
Great, thank you. Is there any other questions from the audience? Yes.
So some of you experienced that like management training program. I was wondering how do you think about it? Like, was that really helpful, or you realized, no, I didn't like the housekeeping, of course I don't. And how were you able to get that? Like, how were you able to get the chance to be in that training program?
So the question from the audience was that many of the panelists had been involved in management training programs, and how were they given the opportunity to participate in these management training programs, and how was it helpful?
So since I was one of those people, throughout my co-ops, I stuck with the Fairmont brand. So it was a great fit for myself, so I knew I wanted to stick with that brand, and just like any other job, applied because the brand offered a management trainee program. And yes, I found it uber beneficial, because I went from all 3 co-ops being in the food and beverage sector, and I thought that's where I wanted to be, until I became a manager, and not so fun, not for me. And I found that out over the course of 9 months, just a test run, if you will. And then going to accounting, it was nice to see the backside of things, to see how everything worked. Like, no wonder why the credit manager put so much pressure on the sales managers. And so it's a nice way to be a team player and understand the industry as a whole and how the whole hotel works. That way, as a sales manager now, I know you can't flip or clean a room in 20 minutes. I know, I understand that, because I've been there, done that. I know it can't be done. So it's nice to get that understanding and become a rounded player.
I think I'm the other one here. You know, I think the biggest takeaway for me from going through the management training program is the appreciation of all the departments. And especially being in my role as the general manager of a hotel, you really need to be able to understand what every position in the hotel does. And there's no better way of understanding than by actually doing. You can shadow for an afternoon, but that definitely does not have the same effect as you actually getting a piece of paper that has 13 dirty rooms on it, 10 of them which checked out, and 4 of them which had a party. To be able to fit that into one day, it really gives you that balance. And employees, they seem to gravitate and really appreciate the fact that I understand that I have actually been there and done that. And I think there's just another layer of respect that comes with it. And I you know, from my history, I know the company I worked for, Patriquin, doesn't necessarily offer the management training program anymore. But I can tell you that if someone came to me and said, Megan, my eventual goal is to be in your position, and I was wondering if you could take me on to work in, you know, these different positions within the hotel, I would say, listen, you are hired. So I think it really comes down to the fact that you need to put yourself out there, and if you are willing to, you know, take the time, and it needs to be a win-win scenario. So you can't come to me and say, I'd like to work in housekeeping for a week, because the training goes for 2 weeks. So whether or not, if you came to me and said, I want to work in housekeeping, and could I do that for the summer, and then maybe move to the front desk, and then spend some time shadowing in sales to see what I eventually want to do, you know, I think that most employers, you know, I'll speak for myself, but I'd be very receptive to that, because, you know, I want to invest in the people that are going to work for me eventually. So, you know, put yourself out there, you know, and be willing to try different departments, because you never know which one you're going to like.
Great, thank you. Is there any other questions from the audience? I have a question. For you. We talked a little bit about trends and things changing in your industry. And how have you seen the changes with all these new social media sites that get to rate your hotel, write your tours, write your travel agencies and things like that? Has this become helpful for you or a hindrance? And how have you guys kind of adapted to that?
Social media is huge because you can have someone walk away from you and 2 minutes later you have this lovely tweet or TripAdvisor comment that is just not so pleasant. So you really have to address situations as they happen and try to find some sort of happy resolution for your client, for your guest, prior to them blowing off some steam on social media. It does make everything a bit faster. It's another kind of means of competing within the industry, within downtown Halifax or wherever it be. But it's huge. Like, social media is, I think, top of mind for everyone. If you tweet a photo of your special in the restaurant, please don't have a typo in that. Like the littlest things. So it's huge.
And like Megan said earlier, we live in a world that everybody expects everything done yesterday. And so I know at the Westin and probably at several other hotels and companies, we have a dedicated team strictly for social media. We have 3 girls, that's what their job is, to keep up on Facebook, any tweets, any sort of, I don't know what else is out there. I attended a MPI event last week, and it was strictly on learning about new technology and different way to communicate, and it's exciting but scary at the same time. But yes, we have a dedicated team strictly for social media.
And just adding on to social media, it's one thing to be on social media, but it's another to actually be interactive on social media. So, for example, I use my LinkedIn account a lot. I write a blog about once a week on my LinkedIn. But apart from writing blogs, I also look at other people's blogs genuinely and either like it or comment on it. And the more you look at other people's work as well, they might take interest in you as well, and they might say, hey, what's this person doing? So don't just be on social media just because your professor told you to get a LinkedIn account or make a Facebook page. Actually do things on social media. And
just to follow, I think that's really forced operators to be more proactive. So, through the hotel I'm at, the Cambridge Suites Hotel, we make sure that we send out a guest survey because there are a lot of silent complainers, and what that is people who do not express how they truly feel about their stay when they're at a hotel. They wait until they can type that, whether or not it's on TripAdvisor or through the portal which they booked. So I think it's really important that, we have that interaction with our guests at our front desk, as much FaceTime with them and relationship that you can build, and then sending out your own form of communication maybe before they think to go on to TripAdvisor or something like that, because you can't fix something if you don't know that it occurred. So I ask all of you, if you have a poor experience somewhere, please bring it to the attention of the owner or operator before you hit the social media, because you just never know how they'll react.
And don't be passive aggressive. Nobody likes passive aggressive.
Any final questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank the panelists so much for taking the time to come in and see us. I think we all took a lot away from that, so really thank you for your time and your energy. We do have a small token of our appreciation. I'll give to you.
And before anybody goes, I need to take a picture for my social media team.
Thank you so much.
Because we're going to tweet it or something. If that's okay.
You're not sure what you're gonna do.
I don't know. That's their job.
Thank you.